Monday night, that means it's time for Meldon Law Monday, and Shane Matthews, who joins us via car on his way back from a speaking engagement. We have much to talk about tonight, don't we? Yeah, it was a brutal loss for the Gators. It's kind of a mixed bag. On one hand, you're happy for the effort. On the other hand, you think what might have been. Certainly, many opportunities there. We all have our opinions about it, not the least of which is should they gone for two, the calls on fourth and inches, etc. We'll get all that from Shane Matthews, and we have a special trip tonight with out to Knoxville to talk to our old friend John Adams, longtime columnist for the Knoxville News Sentinel. Let's get to Tennessee perspective. I think Tennessee might feel a little bit lucky and fortunate to get out of there. But anyway, we'll talk about all that. Join us on the program now, and let's tee it up and talk some Gator football for the next hour. And Shane Matthews joins us next right here on the program. He, of course, called the game, and I heard part of it. And if you haven't before, be sure and tune in the radio broadcasts because that's where it's happening. So Shane's next right here on the Buddy Martin Show.
Buddy Martin, call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, folks. I'm Buddy Martin. The program is called The Buddy Martin Show. Steve, you're all glomming on here tonight, and I'm glad to have you. It's going to be interesting discussion because there are many people who want Billy's head. There are a few who feel like maybe he needs to get a stay of execution, and many are proud of the effort his team performed, but what was lost? That's the question. I hope I wasn't too negative in my column this morning about that, but there's a lot going on here with this team and this program. So let's waste no longer our time and go right to the man himself. Shane Matthews, somewhere in a car, driving from East Florida to Gainesville. Shane, can you hear me?
I can hear you, buddy.
Good. We have a little bit of a handicap tonight with our volume, so we'll get you to talk of it. So, Shane, I could start most any place. Let's start with seeing what is potentially a decent football team, seeing an improved defense, watching players play hard, and, of course, unfortunately, some things happening to players, injuries, and what have you. What was your takeaway at the end of the game, Shane? Didn't get a chance to hear it.
Well, I'll start first, buddy. I said this on my show and other shows and speaking tonight. I thought, in my opinion, everybody has their opinions because we're all experts, right? And we all are second guessers. But I thought it was by far the best game plan on offense and defense that this staff has had since they've been here. I thought the kids played extremely hard. As I said, I thought it was a tremendous plan on both sides of the ball. Some good schemes, some good play designs. But there were 3 or 4 issues during the game that cost us the football game. And I can go through each one and give my thoughts on it. I'll start with the first 4th down. DJ's in the shotgun. They have a power read play call, which is it's a 2-way go. You can either hand the jet sweep off to Trey Wilson, depending on your read, or DJ could pull it and run the power play behind his pulling guard. His read apparently told him to hand it off, and we didn't make it. Is it easy to say we should have done this, Yes, but if Eugene if Wilson makes the first down, nobody's saying anything. It's easy to second guess. I'm not standing up for. I'm just coming from a football standpoint, play caller, whatever. The next fourth down from the goal line, 4th and 1, I had 0 issues with the play call. We muddle huddle, we sprint to the ball out of the huddle, snap it quickly. The offensive line gets blown up. It wouldn't matter if DJ was the quarterback, Cam Newton, or a 300-pounder. They were not scoring. It's a shame that Graham fumbled it. Now, the one issue that I had the most about play calling or bad situation was the end of the first half. There's 17 seconds left. Studies have been that 17 seconds is the cutoff to run Mayday field goal team on if the clock is running. Graham took a sack. Worst case scenario. You cannot take a sack in that situation. So we run the field goal team on. Obviously, apparently one of our linemen was banged up. I don't know what his issue was, what his injury was. He was trying to come off the field apparently, but he stayed because he couldn't get off. We had too many men on the field. He couldn't go down to be hurt because it's a 10-second runoff. So the moral to that whole story is somebody, and maybe they were, we don't know, but has to tell the quarterback, and Graham's got to be smarter, that ball has to be thrown out of bounds or incomplete.
Yeah.
The clock stopped, we jog our team out, we make the field goal. Then the other issue, obviously, that people talk about is the 2-point conversion.
Yeah.
If Tennessee doesn't call timeout, we probably run the 2-point play. I don't know if it works or doesn't work. He changes his mind. But if we go for 2 and we don't make it, people are going to complain. Look, like I said, I understand where people are, but it's always easy to second guess things. I try to look at it from the football side of things, not be to get emotional. In my opinion, and people can disagree with me, I don't care. I thought it was our best plan on both sides of the ball. We didn't win the game, though, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. Now, which one of those was the 1 inch that was short? Was that the third one you talked about? Or they were short by, they ran this jet sweep?
The jet sweep was the first 4th down of the game.
Okay. What did you say about that? I missed it. What did you say?
Well, it was a power read play, which is a 2-way go for DJ Lagway. His read tells him I can either hand off on the jet sweep, or if my read tells me to fake the jet sweep and run the quarterback power. He handed it off. I don't know if it was right or wrong. I don't know what they're teaching. I don't even remember what the play, what the defense was in. But what I'm trying to say is, if Trey Wilson makes the first down, nobody's talking about this.
Right.
Okay. Josh Heupel made the dumbest decision I have seen of any coach in the history of college football. The score was 10-10, buddy. He went for it on 4th and 1 from his own 10-yard line. Think about how dumb that is.
Yeah.
But they got it. So since they got it, nobody's saying a word.
Right. What about those people who say, I'm sorry, Shane, go ahead.
No, I said if they miss that and we stop them, we hit the ball on the 10-yard line.
Right. But yeah,
they're running Josh Heupel out of town today.
Yeah. But now the thing is, people are saying, obviously second guess is wide open. You got those big backs. You got a big quarterback. They don't have apparently snap it under center at all, which is one of your former head coach's big deal. I'll take more snaps under center. The fact is, you need 1 inch and you run a jet sweep. That doesn't come off looking.
Right. Like I said, it didn't work, so we hate the call. But it was a double read for the quarterback. DJ could have pulled it and ran the ball. He didn't. He handed it off. Regardless of that, we did run the quarterback sneak on the 1-yard line and got our asses blown up by the Tennessee D-line. So was it a bad call? Yes, it was a bad call because we didn't execute it and the quarterback fumbled it. And we turned the ball over. So I know exactly how game fans feel. I'm saying, but I try to be reasonable.
Yeah, we're going to lose Shane in and out. He's driving from you there, Shane? You there, Shane?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, well, we missed that second part, but you try to be good. Something I think the thing is that here the culmination of the frustrations of once again playing well enough to win and making decisions that don't, that don't give the opportunity to do that. Whatever was the reason, whatever the substitution problem was, whoever it was still on the field, it's still the same kind of mistakes to the fans as the Florida keeps making. And you can talk about good efforts in defense, and the defense did look a whole lot better, I must say. And they really outplayed Tennessee. That's the hell of it, is that people think they had a winnable game. And then here's Florida 3-3 now, staring down the barrel of maybe only four wins all season, maybe if that. So it's a difficult thing. I don't know. Do you think Billy is going to survive this? Or I know there's a lot of sentiment about, him heading out of here. What's your feeling?
Like I said, second guessing happens all around the country. The issue you're talking about on the field goal, that's not acceptable. I agree 1,000% with that. I don't know what's going to happen with Billy. I mean, I don't think anything's going to happen to him until the season's over, if it were to happen.
Well, because they have nobody there. Nobody there to be an interim, right?
Right, and exactly. But I don't know what an interim coach, what good that does. And like I said, I don't know what's going to happen next year. I have no idea.
Let's talk about the quarterback. Let's talk about Graham Mertz. You championed his cause always. You thought he was a good player. You talked about even last year when people criticized the choice of him as the quarterback. When you saw him play, you said the guy can throw the football, and you said, I got a lot of confidence, and he's played that way. Unfortunately, he ran into the injury at the end of the season. And now today, it's really kind of sad for a kid like that to give his all. He was a warrior. He gave all, and he played really well. His completion percentage was off the charts, and so now he's done. And how do you say thank you and all the other things that go on? His numbers, he played 16 games, had a 73.7 completion average, threw for 3,694 yards, 26 touchdowns, only had 5 interceptions, and had 5 rushing touchdowns. He was amazing. Overall, he was 333 for 452. Amazing. And he didn't get to finish the season. My heart goes out to him, as I'm sure many Gator fans feel the same way about it. I know you do. I know you have a lot of admiration for him.
Yeah, I knew his season was done after the game. The ACL was torn. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of fans out there that didn't like Grant. I'm not saying didn't like him, but didn't think he was a very good player. I totally disagree. He was phenomenal. He's everything you want in a quarterback. Has great leadership skills, communicates with his teammates very well, great team player, and he does all the little things you cannot teach. That's what's wrong with quarterback play around the country, buddy. There are so many bad quarterbacks in pro football and college football. People get so enamored with the term arm talent, size, and all that stuff. Has zero to do with playing the position. And you're going to continue seeing coaches want those type of players, but they're going to fail. After seeing the Tennessee quarterback in person and watching him play the 2 previous games, I don't think he's worth a damn, buddy.
Really, I have to agree with you. I have to agree with you.
He's Joe Milton all over. He has played abysmal in the 3 SEC games. Doesn't mean he can't get better, but what he does well is throw the ball deep, and he's not real accurate doing that. He missed a lot of open guys, but regardless, I'm glad he's Tennessee's quarterback. I don't think they're going to win a bunch of games with him there. But back to Graham, it is sad. I think he will hopefully get an opportunity to be a free agent probably. And if he does, I think he makes NFL rosters for a few years.
All right, on to DJ Lagway, who has moments. He did throw that one pick, but that's something ball didn't hit the ground for him the last 3 games of any kind. And he has his moments, but he's a youngster and things are going to make mistakes. But can he carry this load?
Yeah, DJ is, as I said many times on your show, he's a lot better in the game than he is in practice. I was scared for him to play after watching him in preseason practices, but he's got tremendous composure for a true freshman. His football IQ is very high, buddy. He makes plays. You know, he's going to learn to take the easy completions the more he plays. You know, I think he tries to force the ball down the field sometimes too much, like you said on the interception. If he don't sit down to his safety valve there, it's an easy 15-yard gain. But he will learn. But he's poised, calm, cool. I like everything I've seen. Yeah, he's going to be a good player because he's got a really good head on his shoulders.
I got to talk to you about my boy Jaden Ball that I talked about quite some time ago. He turned out to be a pretty good one. Now he's got the load on him, Montreal being hurt. What did you think of his performance, and what do you think of how he's developing?
Well, no, he's a really good back. I've always liked our running back room the entire year, regardless of who it was. Even when, you know, we had Trayon Webb. I still like Katie Daniels, although he's not going to play any this year, I don't believe.
Red shirt.
But yeah, Ball's he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
You know, running back. We got a lot of good running backs.
And let's talk about Shane Matthews. He's in his car heading home from a speaking engagement. You can hear us tomorrow morning. I guess he's going to have me on tomorrow, the usual Tuesday show. Pot up with Matthews. How long you been on the air now, Shane? Like 4 years?
We started about 2 weeks before COVID hit, whatever year COVID was.
I don't know. I think it's been about 4 years. But anyway, always love having you on our show, but glad to be on yours. And congratulations to you and the team over there for doing a great job. I wanted to talk about the season as a whole. What a season. My goodness, Shane. The games we're getting now in the SEC, I mean, they're compelling. I mean, who knew Vanderbilt would be such a player, you know, and being such involved. And Alabama getting beat and all the things. I mean, if you think about it, week 6, we expect it to be lackluster. It turns out there are no bad weekends in college football, as the guys at Athletic wrote. It says it's a reminder not to dismiss a matchup based purely on the magnitude of the gambling line, particularly in conference play. And Vanderbilt was a 23.5-point favorite and probably should have, you know, and looked every bit the better team. And now we'll see how this plays out. But there's a lot of good teams in this league. By the way, Oklahoma's not one of them. They could lose again this weekend, and they're not playing up to what we thought. But what do you think of the season so far? 5 teams in the top 11 of the AP poll lost on Saturday.
It's been great. You know, there's nothing like college football. I think as much as we hate it, and I hate it, the transfer portal and NIL has caused a lot of parity across the country. And as you stated, you know, there's been great games week in and week out. I think you'll continue to see that as the season goes on. And it's kind of a wide open race right now. I know Texas is number 1 in America. I still think they're going to lose before the season's over with.
Well, you're going to find out. They get their first big test Saturday, Texas-Georgia game we've been waiting on. I don't know. The team I saw this past weekend against Oklahoma looked pretty darn dominant. I don't think we've seen Georgia's best game yet. What's your feeling about that game?
I think it's in Athens, isn't it? Where is the game being played?
You know, I have to look it up.
I think if the game's played in Athens, I think Georgia will win. I'm I mean, Texas, as you stated, they handled Oklahoma, but Quinn Ewers doesn't look healthy to me.
I agree.
Watched like the first half of that.
Yeah.
And I really thought Sarkisian would make a quarterback change because Ewers was missing easy throws, and it just looked like his injury was still bothering him. So
it did.
I think Georgia wins the game if it's in Athens.
Yeah. Who's the better team?
Well, we'll find out. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Georgia can't afford to lose their second game, buddy. So I look for them to play. I look for them to play extremely well.
Alabama couldn't afford to either. And, you know, they could be knocked out too. So this whole 12-team playoff thing, we begin to wake up and realize that's the holy grail. You got to get in that top 12 to have a shot, you know. And I think 4 teams will make it, but depending on what happens. I want to go back for a second and talk about the Gator game for a second, the defense. How did they get so much better, Shane? I mean, they're tackling better. Their coverage guys are doing much better. They're bringing pressure on the quarterback. They had an impressive performance in Knoxville, I thought, and it's a shame it had to be wasted.
Well, we took the blueprint of what Arkansas did against Tennessee.
Right.
And we played some different people at different positions. Now, we got lucky because they had a couple of receivers on some big plays running wide open that the quarterback missed.
Right.
But they've played hard. We moved Justice Boone inside sometimes on passing situations. He's caused some problems. Brian Taylor, who I haven't really seen him play all year, but Tennessee couldn't block him.
Right.
And so, yes, we have been trying to force teams to throw the football the last 2 weeks because the 2 quarterbacks that we played struggle throwing the football.
Yep.
Which is a great plan this week because Kentucky struggles throwing the football.
Right.
But yeah, they played their hearts out. I mean, both sides, everybody played their hearts out. It's just a shame we lost the game.
All right. I know you're driving. Thank you, Shane. I'll be on with you tomorrow morning on Spot Up with Matthews. Have a safe trip home, and let's get to the second half of the season and see what it brings. Could be a crazy one. Thanks, Shane.
All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. The great Shane Matthews coming to us there. Standing by is our good friend, John Adams. He'll be here joining us in a moment. I'm going to tell you just a minute before I bring John, about our sponsor, Meldon Law, who is obviously very involved in the Florida program. They do many sponsorships, including this program. And they also want you to know they are practicing law. Sometimes Jeffrey gets so involved in campaigning for causes and the ban and everything else, he forgets to mention they have law offices in 4 places. A new one in Williston, Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City. They will review your case. I got to tell you, I've had a very successful result working with Meldon Law. I can't talk about it, but when it's over, I'll tell you about it. Tremendous job. If you don't know the lawyer you ought to get, they'll tell you. Check them out. Meldon Law, they won't back down. Time now for my friend, John Adams. My goodness, it's been a long time. 2 old codgers like us don't get together very often. And John joins us from Knoxville. John, good evening to you.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Good. I was just listening to what Shane Matthews had to say about the game last night, he called it. And, well, you were there. I can't wait to get your perspective. So many critical calls and plays. And in some cases, either coach distinguished themselves. And I want to get your thoughts about the game, about the level of competition, what you saw, because you're very fair about assessing things. Where obviously a lot of people are down on Billy Napier because he hadn't gotten the result. But was the Florida team you saw, was it the team you expected to show up?
Yeah, I watched Florida in most of its games this year. I mean, all of them to some degree. I record a lot of SEC games. Florida's gotten better over the course of the year. And Napier, one thing he's done well is rotate those quarterbacks. I think, Spurrier was able to do that. Bobby Bowden did it many, many years ago. It usually doesn't work well, but I think Florida's done pretty well by it. Still, it was a damaging blow when Mertz went out. So Florida's gotten better. Billy Napier just doesn't impress me. I think there's some talent on that team, and I don't know what his problem is. He did okay at Louisiana, but he just doesn't seem like a big-time SEC coach to me. The way they managed the end of that first half was dreadful. Should have got 3 points out of that. That could have won right there. I thought Florida was a better team on that night. Thought it outplayed Tennessee. But it came away with the loss, and squandered so many scoring opportunities. However, one of my readers emailed me and said he thinks Tennessee should trade coaches with Florida. Florida had a more imaginative offense. So
How about that?
He's got a sense of humor, but Tennessee's offense is a mess right now.
Yeah, the quarterbacks, I'm a level Levi. I can't ever pronounce his name. He did not have a good game, and Shane and I were just talking about it. And Shane says, I don't like him. I don't think he's very good. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I had him pretty much winning the Heisman. Not anymore, of course. I jump on and off bandwagons pretty quickly. I've never been hesitant about changing my opinion on things. I go back when I first saw him. Just got snippets of him last year, backup role. Should have played more, I thought. He looked terrific in his only start. Was in the Citrus Bowl against Iowa. Iowa has no offense, but his defense is good. He ran for 3 touchdowns, made quick, decisive cuts, threw the ball well. In the first 3 games this year, he threw balls that a lot of NFL quarterbacks can't throw. He's got a powerful arm, quick release, has a deft touch. He did all that. But starting with the Oklahoma game, seen a completely different quarterback. Now, there was an upgrade in competition, but I don't think I think the pressure's getting to him. He looks very uncomfortable. Now, instead of that deft touch I saw in his passes, changing speeds whenever the situation called for it, I'm not seeing that now. He's throwing the ball too hard sometimes on what should be easy completions. He's overthrown receivers, and he's not protecting the football. And that's a killer. Of course, your QB can't protect the football. Tennessee has no other recourse but him, so they're stuck with him. But this is the guy, he's 6'6", he's extremely athletic, and I really thought we were going to see some Manziel-like plays from this guy. I thought he was the kind of player that when everything broke down, he might take off and run 30 yards, that he can make a linebacker miss.
I expected to see that in myself. I thought, where's this phenom I heard about? Wasn't there on Saturday night.
No, see, Urban Meyer raved about this guy. Urban knows quarterbacks, and first time he saw him against Chattanooga, granted, but he was raving about him, and then Nick Saban said he's the perfect quarterback for Josh Heupel's system, and I thought definitely. But now Heupel doesn't have confidence in him, and that's reflected in the play calling. So, but they're stuck with him. He needs to get better. But another close game against another SEC opponent could be troublesome. So I tell you what, nothing he did. He didn't throw a pass all Saturday that was good as the one DJ Lagway threw to get that game into overtime.
That was a direct throw. It really was. Kid's something special. And by the way, it is weekend. It used to be huge for you. It is the weekend of Alabama, Tennessee, right? And
it
used to matter.
It still matters. It's just it's odd for Tennessee to be playing Florida and Alabama back to back. That's kind of weird. Both games at Neyland. All of Tennessee's offensive problems. It has a great running back in Dylan Sampson. This is the best running back Tennessee's had since Travis Henry and Jamal Lewis back in the late 90s. This is, but its offensive tackles can't pass protect. I heard Shane saying somebody was, he didn't get blocked all night. There are a lot of guys that don't get blocked by those tackles all night. So you got that. Yeah, you got that issue. But the defense is playing lights out. I mean, if the offense expected, and certainly what Heupel's resume suggests, we'd be talking about Tennessee in the same breath as Texas and Ohio State and Oregon right now, because the defensive front is outstanding. And, they've got a lot of depth. They rotate 12 or 13 guys, keep everybody fresh. So that's the strength. But the offense is just not what anyone expected.
Well, we got some different kind of football being played this year. It's been exciting. There have been changes, some good, some are not. I thought we'd get three old guys together and talk about it. Here's your friend of mine, Franz Beard, joining a program here with us tonight. And Franz, say hello, John. I guess we all
John. Good to see you again.
Hey, Franz, how are you, man?
We've come a long way since Louisiana in 1980, haven't we?
I guess. I'm still doing the same thing, so I don't know how far I've come at all.
I am
Mr. Consistency.
Hey, can you see that? Can you see that oil painting of Tebow behind me? That's my wife's painting that.
Really?
I see that. I see.
Yeah, that was done in about, what was Tebow's last year? 2009.
2009.
2009. Yeah, I think he did that in 2008 after the second championship.
Do you know in 2009, I want to tell you something that happened in 2009, and I know this. I've talked to somebody who's confirmed it to me. When he had that collision with Eric Berry, he had a concussion. He didn't really tell anybody about it, but someone who was on that team, I can't say the name because he promised me that he'd kill me if I ever told him, and I believe him. He said Tebow was concussed and he didn't tell anybody, and that's why in the Kentucky game, when the guy came, he just stared him down and the guy came straight on. He not only says that, but he said Tebow could not raise his arm above here for the rest until he had some rest between the SEC championship game and the Cincinnati game. That was the first time he'd been able to throw a full windup since the Tennessee.
Well, was he not at full throwing capability in the SEC championship game?
No, he was throwing sidearm whole game. He was not.
Yeah, I remember that actually. It was an awful night for Florida, certainly.
Can you imagine, though, I've talked to Firebomb about this too, if Florida wins that game, how it changes the landscape of college football. Saban would not have gotten vaulted to the top so fast, and Meyer would have been the guy. And, and of course, they after that SEC championship game the year before, Nick Saban marked the days off on the calendar. Every day it was about Florida. They were so hyper-focused. They were so prepared, and they got the better of Florida. But I want to get back to one thing real quick and get John to tell the story. John's got one of the great stories I've ever heard for a fan. His wife loved Tim Tebow, but you can't be the wife of the sports editor, one of the most prominent people in Knoxville, associated with the Vols, and wear a Tim Tebow jersey. So, John, pick it up from there. What happened?
Well, she would go to the Tennessee-Florida game and wear a Tebow jersey underneath her orange Tennessee shirt. And but now I was covering that the Oklahoma-Florida game, that Miami. Yeah, I think it was in Miami. Was covering that game, and so she went to that in full Florida gear, and she went to a game in Gainesville and was wearing Florida gear. But yeah, Tennessee games, she would. In fact, I think she went to some games in Florida wasn't even playing, and she had that Tebow shirt on. She hates the NFL to this day because she felt like the NFL didn't want Tebow because he was too good of a Christian for them.
Yeah.
They want. So anyway, she's.
A lot of people share her opinion.
John, it wasn't Tim's Christianity that was the problem. And I've talked to enough people, and I think Buddy's heard the same thing. It was Tebow's entourage, all the brothers and the people like that, Tebow Inc., that the entourage was what ran him out of the NFL.
That's unfortunate. I mean, it really is. He was, well, yeah, I mean, he really, when you go back, he had a cult following even in high school. So, I mean, you know that better than I, but, bottom line, anybody should have taken him as a backup. And particularly in today's game, it's more run oriented with your quarterbacks. We've seen Lamar Jackson flourish a lot at running quarterbacks flourish. I'm just saying, if you got a star player like Lamar Jackson, it'd be nice to have your backup as Tebow because he could give you the same running threat that Lamar does. So there, I think, I didn't think it was purely on talent, obviously, that Tebow didn't make it in the NFL.
Let's talk about the new SEC. I think people are just beginning to understand that there are 12 teams going to the playoffs, and if you get in there, you got a shot. And now there's no more East and West divisions, and the game has changed. Vanderbilt is one of the teams to beat. This whole thing is crazy. I think it's a whole lot better so far for me, except for the fact there seems to be a sort of a disregard for some of the traditions. They seem to be willing to throw them over the side. But, I mean, the football we're getting on Saturday, which is really what it's all about to me, has been phenomenal. And now, like someone wrote this past week, we weren't supposed to have a really good weekend. This is week 6. And what a weekend it turned out to be. I think it's tremendous. I hope it continues the way it is. What do you think, John?
Well, yeah. I mean, I respect the traditions of college football. I grew up with college football. I went to my first college game when I was 9 years old. I've always followed the sport and loved college football, loved SEC football. But I think you just have to adapt and adjust. I hear a lot of people grousing about the traditions. Texas and Oklahoma aren't in the Southeast, don't belong to the SEC. It's all about the money, all this thing. Fine, you can justify those complaints with factual basis. However, come Saturday, when you turn on your television and you got your remote and you start switching around from one game to another, there are more games that matter than ever before. And so I've enjoyed this season more than any I've just watched to this halfway point because it's like so many games are relevant. Because you got all these teams jockeying for positions in the playoff field, and everything matters with that because you got to think about style points. You got to think about strength of schedule, upset losses, all this kind of stuff. And I think it's made it more entertaining. And here we are at the halfway mark in 8 SEC teams. Half the teams in the conference are still viable contenders for the playoff. And I'm sure if he could, Greg Sankey would try and get all 8 of them in the playoff.
Franz, I agree with what he said about what really matters, turning on the TV and the quality of the games, not so many of these pancake games, these powder puff games that we sometimes have. Still got a few, but the quality of football, especially the way it's blocked off with 3 triple headers like that, is pretty compelling. I think it's been Sankey has got it right and big time, don't you, Franz?
I will bet you any amount of money that LSU, Ole Miss, and Florida, Tennessee outdrew Ohio State, Oregon. I'll bet you any amount of money that was the people watch the SEC, and particularly when you got a team like Vandy, which has been, a bottom feeder, been a catfish in the league for way, way, way too long. And all of a sudden they're up there knocking off Alabama, and they got a story that you can't beat in Diego Pavia. It's compelling. What do they have that's a compelling story in the Big Ten? They don't have one, period. You can't name me one guy in the Big Ten that just absolutely grabs you by the lapels and shakes you. And you look in the SEC, Arch Manning, not even the starting quarterback there at Texas. Georgia, struggling, has already lost a game, and people had already anointed them national champions, and on and on and on like that. I think it's a better SEC because of the additions. And, I can't wait till the end of the year when all of a sudden maybe we got Texas and Texas A&M playing for a second week in a row. And that is entirely possible that they could be playing for the SEC championship because the Aggies have a loss, but it's not an SEC loss. So if they were to lose to Texas in the final game, they still might be the only one-loss team in the league. I mean, this you can't make this stuff up.
Yep. I agree, Franz, and I want to get to this question. I'll do a quick commercial break, but I wanted to say we haven't even seen the back half of the season. And to me, when I talked to Urban about this, the residual impact of playing SEC football over 12 games begins to show up in the last half of the season. You better have depth. You better have good trainers. You better have a good nutrition program. And you better not be taking anybody light, including Vandy or even Florida. There's still some crazy things can still happen. I want to know if you guys agree with me. When I come back, give me your thoughts about it. And besides Vanderbilt, who everybody's talking about, who else is going to be a surprise team? First, I want to tell you about our sponsors, TitanMRI.com. They are located in North Florida. If you have to have an MRI, I suggest you contact them because, among other things, they will custom make an appointment. If you can't come during the day, they'll make it at night or the weekend. They want to take care of you. They also know that many of us get claustrophobic when you get in there to get an MRI. They do everything they can to make your experience comfortable so you don't get claustrophobia. And lastly, maybe your insurance program has run out or you don't have insurance. They'll make it possible for you at a reasonable price to get a MRI with a cash or card. So check them out. Go to TitanMRI.com. All right, guys. It's going to be I call Florida's second half of the season the Bataan Death March. No offense to the people who died there. And the fact is, maybe FSU, looking so bad, has lightened that, but then you got to play Vanderbilt instead. What do you think if I said to you, who will rise, who will fall in the second half of the season, and why? John, who you got?
Well, a lot of it has to do with who can stay healthy. It's kind of like the NFL now. The team that stays the healthiest will have a better shot. But there's some teams, Florida's schedule, that's as tough as any stretch I've ever seen in the SEC. Oklahoma's the same way. Even Arkansas is, well, mathematically, I guess you could say it's a contender, but it's not really a contender. But it has a tough second half of the season too. And you brought up a good point about when you're talking about what Urban said about the second half of the season. Depth becomes a factor. Quality depth. Everybody has depth, but quality depth. Some of these lesser teams have a better shot at upsets the first half of the season than they do in the second, because when they lose a key player, they're less apt to bring in somebody comparable. I say that, but honestly, I have no idea what's going to happen. But I do think I like your Texas. I had Texas A&M making the playoff in preseason. Felt like I was an idiot watching them lose to Notre Dame. I thought they would win that game. But here they are now with a very favorable schedule. All their tough games at Kyle Field, and it got that game at Kyle Field in College Station, the last game of the year. I mean, how awesome is that? Some of these final games in the SEC, my goodness, they're just go. It's going to be amazing. But Texas and Texas A&M too, just, you know, people don't like it when I say a hated rivalry, but I'm just being factual. On game day, at least they hate each other. That rivalry goes way back, even though Texas has dominated it. But A&M's had its moments, and A&M will be a tough out in that game, the last game of the season, I guarantee you.
You know,
I thought we'll jump in there, Franz, and you take it from here. I thought Tennessee was going to be one of those teams 2 weeks ago. I think I was so impressed with Heupel's coaching. I think they're going to be right there with Ole Miss and other teams. You know, they have a chance. And of course, how wrong we'll be about that now. It all changes so fast, friends.
I don't like Tennessee, and I never did. I thought they beat up on bottom feeders. And you look at what they've done in the SEC: 352 offensive yards, 330 offensive yards, 312. It keeps getting worse. As John pointed out earlier, they don't have tackles who can block anybody. And, they lost their best defensive player, I believe, the Saturday to an ACL. You know, for all the talk about James Pierce, Pelia was the heart and soul of that defense. And losing him is a critical blow to that defense. I'm not impressed with Nico. I'm very, very impressed with Dylan Sampson. Heck of a football player. But I like the Aggies a lot. And I think the Aggies are really good. And I don't think anybody better sleep on LSU. LSU gets Alabama at home. And let's just say that for some reason that we don't expect, that Tennessee beats Alabama this week. Alabama could end up losing to LSU in Death Valley, and here they are 9-3, and I guarantee you the hangings in effigy will be going on all over the state of Alabama, because Kalen DeBoer will not have a safe place to go. I mean, do you want to talk about people asking to trade? They'll probably want Billy Napier and tell us that we can have Kalen DeBoer in a straight up trade. I like right now, I think that Texas A&M, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say Georgia are going to be the three teams. I mean, not Georgia, but LSU. I like LSU over Georgia. I think Georgia's going to get ambushed there. I think they're going to lose this weekend at Texas, which will be their second SEC loss. And I got to tell you what, in Oxford, Lane Kiffin could beat them. I don't think he'd have a shot at ever beating them in Athens, but I think in Oxford, he can do it. So I think those are my three teams right now that are going to make the playoff. And if there's a fourth one, maybe it will be Georgia. Maybe it will be Tennessee. But I like those three.
All right, we're going to let John get out of here because it's past his bedtime. But I'm
a night owl, buddy. Don't use that as an excuse.
I had this nap by like one of our long-time listeners put this up a couple of times. Want to know what you think about Vanderbilt?
Well, I'm shocked anytime Vanderbilt wins a significant game. I pretty much use it as a punchline. And then I was a bit surprised when it beat Virginia Tech, not surprised when it lost to Georgia State. But then when it beat Alabama, that was earth-shaking. And watching a lot of that game, how well coached and how well how well Vanderbilt executed in that offense in that game was really impressive. Clark Lee, to his credit, I mean, this guy, he could see in the crystal ball where he's headed. He's joining that long line of coaches at Vanderbilt who've been fired. even though winning isn't as important there as it is other places, they reach a point where, well, they got to fire the coach. He loses so much. And that's just where he was headed. So he goes out, he goes to Mexico State and gets the offensive coordinator, Tim Beck, and gets the quarterback, Diego Pavia. Those guys teamed up to beat Auburn 21 points last year at Jordan-Hare Stadium. So that he completely changed things offensively and just said, go for it. He's a defensive-minded guy. But Vanderbilt against Alabama, it wasn't a flukish kind of win. Watching that game, it looked like the better team. And Alabama was bewildered by what it was doing offensively. It didn't know what its assignments were. And that little quarterback just kept making plays. So Vanderbilt, if they can keep him healthy, Vanderbilt might beat somebody. Well, it's already beaten Kentucky. It's a 13.5 point underdog even against Kentucky. So Vanderbilt, I think, is a threat. Vanderbilt and Tennessee played this week. I'd say it'd be a close game.
All right, give us your thoughts on this subject. I'll let you go do some commercial work at the end, Franz here and myself. But give us your thoughts that you shared with me earlier in the program, what you see in the Florida team and what you think of Billy Napier as the coach, John Adams.
Well, I see a Florida team that's gotten better this year. I thought they played hard. They don't have great quality depth, I don't think. But I like the way they manage the quarterbacks. I just don't think the overriding thing, Billy Napier, to me, you just look at the record. Regardless of the circumstances or what the previous coach did or how tough the schedule is, you can't have a losing record after 3 seasons, which he may have at Florida, and keep your job. You just can't. Florida, despite the buyout, just needs to make a change. The problem is, whom do you get? And we were talking about today on our SEC Unfiltered podcast. I'm a big believer in Matt Rule in Nebraska. Would he leave there after a couple of years? I don't know. But I know everybody likes Lane Kiffin, understandably. He's a great offensive coach. But he's never really won anything. He's a good coach, and he seems to fit what Florida's looking for. But if you have to pay him a lot of money, and I'm not completely certain he would take the job. So once you get past those guys, first guy that comes to mind, you can laugh if you will at this, is Curt Cignetti at Indiana.
Well, Florida fans allow a guy from Indiana to be hired as their head coach. I don't know. He's a very good coach. He's done well there, but Franz, I don't think he's not shiny enough.
I think Curt Cignetti is a terrific coach. I personally would say that they're not going to take a guy who's been in a formerly D1 AA program, moving up then to the Sun Belt, and then going to Indiana. Even though I can tell you that they got a schedule that says 10-2, which would be remarkable considering it's Indiana. They haven't done that well since a guy named Lee Corso was coaching there and got him to the Rose Bowl. Here's the guys that I really, really like, and I'm liking them more and more. One of them is Jeff Browne at Louisville. And the other one's the other one's James Franklin. Franklin's got a low buyout. I believe that James Franklin would leave Penn State. I've heard through people who are Penn State people who are up there that he's ready for a change. He's had it with them. He's in a league that no matter who they add, they could add another 28 teams in that league, and it's still going to be a Michigan, Ohio State league, and it's always going to be that way. It's always going to be tilted that way. I've been told that he would be a guy that would be interested. And here's the thing. You put a black coach in the state of Florida with all the athletes we have here, not only a black coach, but an articulate black man. I mean, an extraordinarily articulate black man who can carry on a conversation with Harvard PhDs all the way down to the guy that picks up your trash. He can relate to people. Put him in a place like Florida where he can get all of the recruits he needs within a 200-mile radius. And all of a sudden you're talking a different story. I like those two guys, though. Those are the two guys I like. I don't think Lane's going to leave Ole Miss. I just don't think. I know Florida people are saying, please give us Lane, and I understand why, and I think he'd be good here. I think they should have hired him the first time when they had a chance instead of Billy Napier. But I don't think Lane's going to leave Ole Miss under any circumstance.
All right. Well, we'll see about that. John, it's great catching up with you, man. If you have any final comments you want to make, that's fine. Love having you on the program. One of the most knowledgeable guys in college football ever. You've been sitting there in that seat for a long time, covering Tennessee football. You and Feinbaum should get a Lifetime Achievement Award for staying with one program for so long. And I think it's wonderful. There's something to be said.
I wish Paul would give me a cut of his salary. I feel better about all the time I've put in. It's good seeing you guys.
Yeah.
I always enjoy talking football with you. Good seeing you, Franz. That was a pleasant surprise to see you pop up on the screen.
John, it's always a pleasure to see you. You've been one of my favorites ever since I was a sports editor in little old Hammond, Louisiana, and you were over there writing these brilliant columns for the Morning Advocate. And you and Peter Finney were required reading for me.
Peter Finney, one of the all-time greats. Peter was still working, I think, at 90. He died in 93.
Yeah.
He's one of the all-time greats. I love Peter Finney. And what a tremendous guy he was.
He was.
Just great. Bringing back some old memories. Unfortunately, Franz, the publisher of the Baton Rouge paper at the time, didn't like me as much as you did. So I took a job in Pittsburgh.
Well, we love you, John. Great being. I hope you come back. All right.
All right. Anytime, guys. Take care.
You, John. The great John Adams, Knoxville News Sentinel, been doing it a long time, and it's so good to see a guy like that. And he talk about knowledge.
Yeah,
he's got it, and I love talking with knowledgeable people because I don't know very much. But guys like Franz and John. Franz, let me give you the last 2 or 3 minutes to sort of weigh in on the weekend. And you wrote a tremendous column on Saturday night on Deadline. If people know how hard it was to write, not just write stories, but columns on Deadline, you wouldn't believe it. He taught a master class on how to write a column on Deadline and get all the information you need and present it well and make it readable. So my hat's off to you, Francis. Great job.
I appreciate the kind words. I think you're being gushing a little more than you need to. In retrospect, as I'm looking back at that football game, do you know what irks me more than has gotten to the point that it irks me more than anything else about that ball? Well, 2 things, and they're all related to the same play. The first one is Montrell Johnson on the play that before 4th and inches. Montrell Johnson, and I have watched that replay now at least 10 times, and I promise you he had the first down. It was a bad spot, so bad that both announcers in the booth were saying, this is a terrible spot. Billy, I'm shocked to this moment that Billy did not say, throw the red balloon or whatever it is out there, the beanbag, right, and say, we need to challenge that, because I believe on the challenge, there would have been no question about it. The knee, they spotted it where the knee hit, and the knee didn't hit until after he was beyond the marker. I thought he was a good 1.5 feet, 2 feet beyond the marker, and they spotted him an inch short, 1 inch. If you challenge that, I don't see how they could have not done it. Then here comes 4th and inches, and it irks me today, irked me Saturday night hearing Billy Napier defend the call, irked me today hearing him say it again. You watch that. Buddy, the play, here comes the jet sweep. First off, why are you running a jet sweep? Secondly, if you are running it, that left guard has to make the turn, come out there and kick out the defensive end. Guess who didn't? Guess who got out slow? And the defensive end causes Trey Wilson to have to veer further back. That gave the guy time to make the play. The guy should have been blocked. But guess what? You look at the stills on there, and there's that defensive end chasing Trey Wilson. And here is our right guard who's standing there with nobody to block. He pulled, but there's nobody to block. What does that tell you? That he didn't get out there in time. It wasn't a brilliant defensive play by them. That is insulting. That was no brilliant defensive play. You had an unblocked guy from the secondary who had a clear shot at making a tackle, and he made it. And he made it because there should have been a kick out, and the alley should have been 20 feet further back. There should have been an alley to go up the field. It was not a. It was a it was a bad call to begin with, and it was a badly executed play on top of that. And as both the play-by-play and Louis Riddick, the color guy, said, you have a 240-pound stud. Put him under center. You need an inch. You tell me he's not going to get an inch? You're out of your mind if you think that.
I'm with you on that. And I just want to read this little comment from our friend, Freddie Weeby, who has a different view of it. I'll read what he posted today, and we'll talk to Freddie later in the week. He says, I'm passionate, not just mad. I read and hear all the nonstop comments on social media, and I get infuriated. Nothing stings like a game you're supposed to win, but our players in Knoxville showed heart despite setbacks. Best team performance in 3 years by far. Red zone opportunity in the first half cost us the win, but I see potential. Coaches, let's fine-tune the clock management and play calls. That 4th-and-1 call, a teachable moment, even though it was a bad spot, and you should have been challenged. I'm dismayed by knee-jerk reactions demanding Napier's excellence. I'll give you 30 seconds to respond.
Well, he's right about the bad play calls. I mean, they were terrible play calls. He's also right about the progress that's been made, particularly on that defensive unit. Since Ron Roberts went up into the booth, the defense has been better. Those are the last 2 games. That defense has been far, far better than it has been. They played hard. They played well. Those guys deserved a better outcome than the coaches gave them a chance to have. I still think to this moment, I go back to that old saying that we've heard for 40 years, buddy. You go for the win on the road. You go for the tie at home. I agree with that 100%. That at home, you've got the home crowd behind you, etc., like that. You're on the road. You're going into You're going into end zones filled with their fans from 25 yards out, and that is a no-win situation. It takes brilliant teams to win in that situation, and I'm miffed to this point, and I have yet to talk to a single person, and I've talked to a lot of them. I've probably, counting the texts, the emails, and the phone calls, I probably talked to 100 people, and I have yet to talk to somebody who didn't bring it up and say, why didn't he have the Ray Graves 2 fingers up? You were there or not, so was I.
Yep, right there. Well, Franz, once again, tremendous job of coverage. If you're not reading Franz Beard, you're not getting the whole story. To do that, you got to subscribe to GatorBaitMedia.com, and you'll read it among other people. Carlton Reese, Loren Meadows, etc., and they even let me write occasionally. With Franz Beard, he's the man. Franz, great job this week. I know you're going through a tough time. My thoughts and prayers for your family. And we'll talk to you hopefully again on Thursday night, Orange and Blue Blitz.
Homecoming weekend, and we're honoring the 1984 football team.
Yeah.
And
I would suspect you have a piece on that. I suspect you'll be writing about that at some point, right?
I will be. And I know we're already over time, but let me say this. It is about damn time that the people in the athletic administration had the balls and the heart and the guts and the brains all at once to honor this team. It is disgraceful, just as it is every bit as disgraceful that they've blocked Vernon Maxwell not having his point. You know what that does, buddy? When they don't accept Vernon Maxwell's points, it invalidates all the other guys on that team who fought and played hard for Vernon for 2 years. It just as it is we have invalidated that 1984 team by failing to at least recognize them for 40 years.
Yeah.
It is
disgraceful. Basketball with Franz. Also, I want to say preseason poll AP, I saw Florida 21st. Not 21st. That much, but I think they're a better team than that. We'll talk about that maybe later in the week. Francis, thank you very much. Great job. All the best to you, my friend.
Take care.
All right, the great Franz Beard. And you want to subscribe, smash subscribe, and you'll catch us every night right here, Monday through Thursday on this channel. Thank you for listening and watching, all you people. You've been great. I want to remind you of somebody else that's great. People who make a difference in our community, a lot of ways. Renstar Medical Research. Tremendous job there in Ocala. My friends Joe Sorrentino and Mary Brantley, wife of Scott Brantley, do a wonderful job of trying to find ways to make us healthier. And how they want to do that is they like to have clinical trials. They've done over 800 of these trials since they opened. They do this, and by getting you in a controlled environment, they give you all sorts of kinds of medication. And of course, we know there's always a placebo pill in there. They find out which ones respond to what. And that data all goes to these companies that do that obviously treat us with the prescriptions that we have. They want to know more about us here in our area so they can treat us. So I encourage you to take part if you can. You get a compensation for time and travel. And of course, you get the satisfaction of knowing you're helping yourself, you're helping some good people, and you're helping the community. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Tomorrow night, we'll have Loren Meadows. He'll be hosting. He does a great job. And he'll have us the usual Tuesday night lineup. I encourage you to check that out. Very strong lineup. I will say to you, thanks for listening and thanks for watching, and have a great night. And we're back tomorrow night with Loren and Thursday night with the Orange Blue Blitz. Good night, folks.